ALSA International Legal Training and Workshop. This event, ALSA International is aware that there is a high number of interest from our members, from everyone here, as mostly an LLB student who wants to pursue a higher education, LLM. Thus, to accommodate this interest, this version of our legal training and workshop aim to provide information, insights, and advices related to the journey and dilemmas surrounding LLM study. This will be done later on with interactive discussion with our panel of speakers today and a workshop session. As mentioned, this event will not be possible without our speaker today. So a very warm welcome to Mr. Daniel, Mr. Alexander, Mr. Akaracha, and as well as Mr. Chapa. Thank you very much for your time to be here. Last but not least, to all participants, I hope that this workshop and session will give you more guidance and more clarity in regards to your choices, as well as help you in making decisions on whether or not you should pursue an LLM, where to do it, and most importantly, how you can do it. And that will be all from me. Enjoy the session, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. So thank you, Regina, for your opening speech. And now we'll have people for, let me spotlight the speaker first. And I believe Mr. Alexander is joining us as well. He's here. Okay, so before I spotlight Mr. Alexander, so maybe we can start from introduction first so everyone get to know our speaker. So first, we have Mr. Daniel Low here. Hi, Mr. Daniel Low.
Hi, everyone. Do you want me to just give me a brief introduction?
Yes. Please introduce yourself, Mr. Daniel Low.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Low. I am currently a fifth-year lawyer, private equity lawyer, practicing in-house at UBS in Singapore. Before this, I was at an international law firm in Singapore, also a private equity firm in Hong Kong, and I trained at Dentons in Canada and practiced in the energy M&A space. I did my LLM at the University of Toronto in Canada in 2012. I focused on corporate law and securities regulation. I was really fortunate to be granted a fellowship from the Capital Markets Institute for my research on securities regulation, which paid for my LLM, which was great. And later was awarded a gold medal for prize for my thesis and performance in the program. So all in all, a very good experience for me. But happy to see you all, and hopefully we'll have a good session today.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel Low. That's very great that they pay for the education. And next we have Mr. Akara Chai. Hi, Mr. Akara Chai.
Hi, everyone. My name is Akara Chai Chamini Karagate, or you can also call me Name. So here's a brief summary about me. So I graduated with a law degree from the University of Cambridge in 2018. Then I went to intern and second at UNHCR in Geneva, Switzerland, to learn more about refugee issue. Then I became very interested about the refugee issue back in my home country, Thailand. So I went to work as a legal advocate, which is kind of like a refugee lawyer at Asylum Access Thailand in Bangkok, which is where I met Pinet, Miss Nichapa, whom you will get to know in a bit. After that, I flew to Cambodia to work with the prosecution team at the Extraordinary Chambers in the Courts of Cambodia to learn more about international criminal law and international humanitarian law. And now I'm just working as a human rights lawyer in Thailand. I was supposed to start my LLM at Harvard Law School last year, but because of the pandemic, I decided to postpone my LLM to this year. So hopefully I will be able to fly to the US later this August. Yeah, very nice to see everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Akashai. I hope you get to fly to the US after this COVID-19 situation. And now we have Mr. Alexander, who is actually calling us from the United States right now. So hi, Mr. Alexander, please introduce yourself.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, you're audible.
Oh, cool. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Gao Miaka, but people call me Alex. I am from Myanmar. I finished my Bachelor's of Laws from Dagon University in Myanmar in 2018. And after I finished my LLB, I joined Allen and Overy, which is a Magic Circle UK law firm. I worked there for 3 years. I mainly do corporate and projects back in our Yangon office. And I also had a chance to go to Bangkok for corporate related matters for about 3 months under secondment. I also had a chance to go to Singapore for about 3 months under international arbitration. And that's where I really get to be interested to pursue my career on. So currently at the moment, I'm studying at Georgetown University, focusing on international arbitration and dispute resolution. I am also a Fulbright scholar. And yeah, it's really great to be here, and I'm looking forward for our discussion.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alexander. And then lastly, we have Ms. Nisha Pa. Hi, Ms. Nisha Pa, or Peanut, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Nisha Par, but you can call me Nat. I'm graduated from law school from Chulalongkorn University, Bangkok, Thailand in 2016. And then I went to take an internship with UNHCR in Bangkok. And that is how I'm start like my passions with the human rights pathways, human rights career basically. So I'm continue to do the same, like continue the same part, work as a refugee lawyers. And basically at the Aslam Access Thailand that I met Name during like my second years of like working there, and then I got a scholarship as a Schiffner for the master degree in UK, and that is the reason why I went to UK for master degree at the University of Essex, International Human Rights Law specifically, and then. So myself, I want to pursue my career in the human rights part as a policy advocacy, and I'm just graduated from the University of Essex, and right now I'm working as like part-time legal consultant and likely do on the project on involving the human rights issues, and also volunteer lawyer for the case base in Thailand right now. Yeah.
Thank you for everyone's introduction. So as we see, we have all speakers from different countries and different background, both in private law and corporates, and as well as human rights, and all from all different countries of LLM as well. So it will be a very insightful discussion for us today for sure. So the first question is towards all speakers. Firstly, Mr. Daniel Lowe, can you tell us through the process that made you decide to apply for an LLM and pursue an LLM? You know, a lot of people have questions like, should I pursue it or should I work first, take a gap year first? So can all speakers tell us the process that you went through?
Sure, happy to. So I think when I was considering whether to do an LLM or not, there were four kind of considerations I come up with. One, it's the most common one, is you want to pivot into a new practice area. So if you're already practicing lawyer, or if you're a law student that focus on, say, public law, but now you want to go into corporate law and you want to show you that commitment, that's in consideration to specialize or to pivot into a new practice area. The other one is to specialize. So certain practice areas like international tax law, an LLM would be very beneficial, perhaps from Columbia or NYU. So this is another reason to consider that as well. Later on, if you want to pursue academia, you want to teach, you want to do your PhD, LLM is your stepping stone towards that as well. So that's another consideration. And lastly, I think this may apply to a lot of us, is if you want to practice in a new country eventually. So say I want to practice in the United States, and I eventually will do the LLM in the United States, which will allow me to write the bar in that state as well. So that could be another consideration in why you do an LLM. And for me, it was actually all of those reasons why I chose to do mine in corporate law, securities regulation. And even though I was from Canada, I did my law degree at the University of Birmingham in the UK. So I was trying to repivot myself back into my hometown. So having a local law degree did help me a lot. And I guess why I chose my specialization is because I've always been fascinated with capital markets, corporate law, and seeing how kind of invisible companies do business and do good, because they're not actually real. You can't actually feel a company, but they have so much impact in our world. So that's part of the reason why I got into what I'm getting to now.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Actually, that's a very new insight for me that, it can help us, bring us to the country possible to pursue a career through LLM. And now maybe Piname can tell us his experience on deciding to apply for LLM, even though COVID-19 hits before he gets to go.
Right, so I decided to apply before COVID-19 actually happened. Anyway, I think Mr. Daniel gave an amazing answer on the things you should think about before doing an LLM. I will focus my answer a bit on whether you should work, you should take a gap year, or you should pursue an LLM first. So I can't speak for other people, and in my experience, the answer to that question really depends on your personal circumstances and what you want to do with your law degree. For me, deciding to work right away after I graduated from law school turned out to be a great decision for three reasons. So the first reason is that working helped me know what I want to do in the medium to long run. While I knew I wanted to work in the public law and or human rights law field, it's quite a broad field. I didn't know whether I wanted to be a refugee lawyer, a criminal defense lawyer, an international human rights lawyer, a constitutional lawyer maybe. Point is, I didn't know. And having worked in the refugee field, the ICL field, the international human rights law field, I know more than I did in terms of what I want to do, which in turn helped me decide whether I want or need an LLM. And if so, which law school will give me what I want. And the second reason is having work experience before applying for an LLM can also make your application much stronger. It can help you construct a clear, authentic narrative for your personal statement, and a clear narrative is integral to a good personal statement. Secondly, what I've been told from alumni and admissions officers is that universities really value applicants who will be able to contribute during class discussion. And it's going to be a bit difficult to participate in class discussion if you have no prior work experience. And third, some universities like Columbia Law School, for example, officially and unofficially require applicants to work for at least 1 year after graduation before applying. I got to talk to the dean of Columbia Law School in October 2019 in Bangkok, and she said the same thing, that if you don't yet have any work experience, she would strongly encourage that you don't apply it and get work experience before you apply. Obviously, they make some exceptions, but from what I know, they make very, very rare exceptions. I think from what I know, it's like 1% of the people admitted did not have any work experience. And the third reason why I think having work experience first is a good idea is because going into an LLM with work experience will enable you to make the best out of the degree. You will know what courses you want to sign up for. You will know what questions you want answered. Point is, for those applying for a general LLM, you will be able to design your course in a way that is most congruent with what you want to do after LLM. So to me, work experience be really helpful for applying for an LLM. Yeah, so that's my.
Thank you so much. It was lagging a bit at the end, but that was such an insightful point, as I think a lot of us don't know yet, because a lot of us are actually graduating soon, like what way we should do. And next, maybe we can hear from Mr. Alexander, the path he went through and his insight on making this decision.
Sure. I think I would very much echo with what Pinay mentioned earlier as well, because for me especially, I actually told this to a lot of my juniors back in Myanmar as well, because once you actually go to pursue your LLM right after you graduated from your LLB, what happens is that you will tend to think of everything as a student still. You will not have this particular mindset on practice areas. So you will just try to think of everything as a student, and that's not going to be very helpful, or that's not going to be the most beneficial if you actually go to attend LLM, especially at a foreign country, because once you actually get to engage in a lot of discussions, discussing with your peers, discussing with your professors, your practice actually really comes into play. So, and also since I'm a Fulbright scholarship, I would also like to share a bit about some of the requirements from government scholarships. For example, like Fulbright, you will have to have at least 2 years of work experience. It could be accumulative, but you have to actually at least have 2 years of work experience. Only after that you are eligible to apply for a Fulbright scholarship. And yeah, I think that's very much that's basically what I want to say. And I think also in terms of like what you want to pursue in your future career as well. For example, like for a country like Myanmar, international arbitration is something that is not very well developed yet. So some of the regimes in the country, they're not, they're still in a very nascent stage. So pursuing an LLM after a certain work experience will actually help you understand the regime better so that you can actually contribute back to your country more as well. So I think that's why, relevant work experience before going to LLM is very important.
Thank you, Mr. Alex. And lastly, we have Ms. Nichapa, who graduated in law school from Thailand, same university that I am in. So really excited to hear how you, choose to whether go into work or go abroad to pursue LLM.
Yeah, so I think like all three speakers like put a like really good point, and I think I just really like to add it on that. I can give the insight how you can design like at least like which like how you can start to find somewhere to work. So for myself, I do internship with a law firm. I have
Oh, I think Peanut disconnected a bit. Peanut, do you hear us? Does she disconnect from all the other three speakers as well? Okay. Maybe we can get. Hi, are you back? Hello. Okay, maybe I'm sorry if you hear this, Peanut. I think you disconnect a bit, so maybe we'll get right back to your point once you come back. Oh, you're back.
Yeah, I'm back.
In a blink of an eye. Okay. And hi. Are you? Oh, okay. I think okay. We'll wait till she's back, and we'll get back to her insight about the decision. So, but before we move on to the next question regarding application, I want to ask specifically to Mr. Daniel Loh, who also has working experience after finishing the LLM. Like, do you think it has made a big, impact to your career after completing the LLM, or difference in regards to career?
So I do think it has made a difference in terms of my marketability. Has it made a difference in terms of the content that I was learning? Probably not, because when you get into practice, it's a bit more practical, and I'm sure the other speakers can tell you the same. What you learn the LLM is very high level, theoretical, whereas when you practice, you use very little of that. So yes, I think it has helped me in terms of marketing myself. Once again, saying that I have a degree from Canada to Canadian employers helped with familiarity. And also, I guess like there's a bit of within the legal industry, there's a bit of kind of the prestige chasing, right? You want to go to a good school because the reputation of the school will reflect on you. So I think that has helped me as well in terms of connecting with other lawyers that are from my alumni from U of T as well. So that has also opened up doors for me in terms of getting interviews or even getting just a coffee with some of these lawyers to discuss their practice areas.
Yeah, thank you very much. So now that Peanut is back, so maybe she can again tell us her point about her decision, and as well maybe add on the question I just asked Mr. Daniel, which is like, since you completed LLM and have working experience after that, how much did LLM impact your career life?
Okay, I will make, yeah. Then I say I'm gonna talk like a long story. Yeah, is this okay? Yeah, it's okay around now, right? Okay.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. Okay. So what the point that I want to add on is like how you're gonna start the career like after you have the law degree at the undergrad. So like for myself, I have been like observe myself in the course, like what kind of subject that I'm interested in and I'm trying to practice. That is the reason why I'm right after the graduate, I'm waiting for the internship again with the UNHCR. So then I can understand more broadly how is another area of kind of work is and how is it fit with me. And that is how I feel I found the passions on the migrations and human rights, and I want to work in the field. But basically I can have to say, like, even the human right itself, we do have a lot of like 100 spectrum kind of work, and most of the people are specialized in each of rights, and they not, it's like another kind of law area, and they have used different kind of article and area of practice. So, and that is the reason why after I've been practice for 2 years, and then I found myself that I need some advancement in my career, and and for the people who are interested, who working in international organizations, it's really important for you to be able to compete to other candidates for the job, and it's really competitive here. And also we might need to compete with a lot of white people and the Westerner. So it's the best way to like you make your degree can be acceptable. It's like you have to get one master degree in like the Western world. And that is and the second thing, the really good advantage that I think Alex already told about is about if you have the work experience. First thing, like for when you actually go to study for the master, you have to think about it. The master degree is quite likely might different, at least for my different, like what I have been learned in law school. We do in the master degree, we do a lot learn about the methodologies and how to we have to approach in one situation. So basically we learn about the theory, and then we need to make the theory make more practical what is to happen. You might discuss in the base on the theory by use the many scenario that actually happen in the real world. So when you don't have any work experience, it's might really hard for you to think of. And when when you're gonna go anything to the discussions, it's might really hard for you to understand what what the theory is talking about. And I think what's the work experience really helped me a lot in terms of when I went to master degree is right. I don't need have to read much on, like I'm read just only like what they are saying, and I quite get the sense to understand easily because it's like what I have been practiced. I have example what I've been worked thing to, then this can throw back to the discussion easily. And the second thing that is a really advantage is about the scholarship. So my Chevening scholarship itself, they are required that you have to work experience for 2 years. And even though for you doing the master in UK, especially LLM, they might not require you for doing like have any working experience, but for the scholarship, especially for the Chevening, they likely and love most of the people who have the work experience. And actually it's like they likely ask about talking about at least 2 years, but most of the people, at least in my group that we got the scholarships, is like I'm the youngest one. I'm have like 2.5 years, like almost 3 years working experience, but then I'm still the youngest. So I think that is how the scholarship share is about your working experience. And actually working experience is really important for do the application for the scholarship as well, because you have to put the expect why you want to come back and how you're going to contribute to your own country. And those issue is that you cannot cultivate from outward apart from your working experience. Yeah. And so for the last questions, that what Mr. Daniel have been told. What is the questions again?
It's like how much did LLM, like is it like really significant to your career? Like how much of a difference does it make?
Yeah, so it's as I have been mentioned before, that is like because in the human rights work, especially with the international organizations, we are being really competitive. It's like, and most of the people have the master degree. So that is why it's really important for me to have the master degree, especially, and have been specialized on my own field, because it's like, then you can compete with other candidates that who have a different master. And I think my degree itself is the way that Mr. Daniel have been mentioned that I have been get a bit, is like we can is the opportunity for us to be connected with the professional. And especially for me, I'm considered like I'm come from the third world, like Thailand. So when I'm studying back in the UK, it's really a great opportunity for me to actually meet a professor from come like all over the world who are in the greatest professor in the practice. Mostly is the person who are get the highest positions in the in the UN, and also like the one way that I can connect with them to ask for anything that relevant to my work, or even how to get the reference. And also like for myself who are seeking opportunity to work human rights in other countries as well, apart from Thailand, it's my great opportunity to connect with most other organizations in London, basically. And also that is the way how like we can ask for the internship or the fellowship. And I almost having the internship with one organizations in London, but because the COVID it's come, so it's like everything is like shut off and turned down. And so my plan is just have been changed so much. But if you ask me, I think it's still great opportunity for me, even though it's not like according to my plan. But yeah, it's still great opportunity for me, yeah, on get the opportunity for myself. And I also learn a lot more on how they, at least in my field, how human rights is working in UK. It's not just only how in the UN system world, yeah. And so I think that is really important. And I cannot talk much on the effect after this because I just graduated as well. But basically, yeah, I think internal opportunity while I'm working, like working and studying that is really good. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think there's a very amazing or like insight from the speakers regarding this issue, that when you're in different specialization, you know, the importance or like the necessity of LLM is different as well. So I think to our participants, definitely look into that. And the next questions is going to be about the application process, which I believe all participants are very worried or concerned about. So I will ask from Mr. Daniel Low first, how the application process in Canada is. Actually, one of my friends was really excited for this event because she has not heard a lot about Canada application process, and also any tips from all speakers on how should we research, where to apply to, comparing it to our ability and all that as well. So Mr. Daniel Low, please tell us about it. Thank you.
Sure. So in terms of the process in Canada, there is no central depository for applications. I'm not sure in the States or in the UK, it's there's a central kind of area to do it. But in Canada, you apply to each law school individually. In Canada, I think we have around 13 to 15 law schools, so not a lot, but I'm sure there's only a few that you'll probably consider anyways. So UBC, U of T, Queen's, McGill, those are the kind of the ones that usually people go to. And in terms of the application process, each law school has their own. So U of T, I know they take applications starting in September. Then basically by December, they decide. And then basically by mid-April or so, you should be able to accept, and then you start the next year. So it's always a year in advance. Some schools like Osgood have multiple entry points. So one fall entry point and one spring entry time. So it really depends on the law school. So it's a bit difficult because you need to, what I did in Canada was create a matrix on Excel and listed out all the law schools I wanted to, and then what their entry time was. And each law school had their own requirements. So some required 2 references, academic references, some required 3, some required just 1. And some ideally would like to see some work experience, some didn't need it. It's a bit of a mixed bag. So I think with Canada, really take some time to go through it. There are a lot of, I mean, I use this one website called LLM Guides. I'm sure all of you have heard it. It's fairly accurate in terms of specialization. Fees, you should probably check the websites because they're more updated there. But I think, yeah, it definitely narrowed down based on specialization and then choose the school. Just because a school is highly rated doesn't mean it's highly rated for your specialization. And that's going to reflect when you do an interview and someone asks you, oh, why did you do your LLM at this school? But then, this other school is more specialized in energy, say, why didn't you go here? You need to justify why you did that. So yeah, application process is mixed bag in Canada, basically.
Wow, thank you. So anyone interested in Canada, do check out each of the law school individually. And then now we have a new application in the US, which P-Name, can you tell us about the process that you go through and any tips on researching?
Yep, of course. I'm just looking at my phone a lot because two of my friends with whom I helped with the application got the decision today. One got it to Harvard and another got an offer from Columbia, NYU, and Georgetown. So I'm very excited for them right now.
Wow,
So
congratulations to
anyway,
them.
application. Yeah, yeah. So, okay, application for LM in the US. So the LM application process can be a bit tiresome, but not too tiresome if you either prepare in advance or if you don't apply to a lot of law schools. Broadly speaking, there are two ways to submit an LM application to US law schools. Number one, you submit your application directly to the law school. In this case, you'll be submitting all the application materials directly to the law school. The law school itself will have its own application portal. So you will be creating an account in that portal and you start filling in information. You will most probably be asked to mail them directly your transcript and your diploma and maybe other application materials. The second way to submit an application is that you submit an application to LSAC or the Law School Admissions Council, which is like you can think of LSAC like a messenger, a middle person, a delivery person who will receive your application and then pass on your application to the law schools of your choice. So in that sense, you will be applying to law schools that are members of LSAC through LSAC. You will create an LSAC account and start filling in information on LSAC website, and then you will send all physical application materials to LSAC as opposed to mailing them directly to the law school. So that's the two main ways. Either you go through the central portal, who will act as a messenger and submit your application to other law schools, or you go directly to the law schools, depending on whether the law schools are members of LSAC. Now, the next part I want to talk about is the what law schools need you to write part. So again, broadly speaking, there are two things. Most law schools, probably all law schools, will need you to write a personal statement. And I don't think I need to go into this now. And the second thing, in addition to personal statements, some law schools, like for example, Harvard or Yale, will ask you to divide your personal statement into two parts. Part one, they will ask you to briefly describe either an important issue in your field of interest or a current legal problem facing a particular country. And they will ask you to provide a theoretical framework or a legal analysis or a strategy to address that issue. Part number two is just the normal personal statement. Tell us about who you are and why you want to come and study at our school. It's the first part number one, identifying a legal issue and proposing a solution that I think is a bit more difficult than writing a personal statement. But yeah, those are my experiences in terms of my application to US law schools.
Thank you very much. And I will ask two follow-up questions to Mr. Daniel and Mr. Akashai. Actually, do you have like any recommendation in regards to like getting reference from professors? Do you like, there should be like a specific timeline? Do they take long, or should we follow up? If you still remember the process you went through, maybe Mr. Daniel can tell us a bit about that first.
Yeah, so I think by the time I left law school a few months before, I knew I wanted to do my LLM eventually. So I had to reach out to a few professors. And I say few because some of them may not reply you back. So you don't want to hedge on just one or two of them. But the first one you should go to is, generally speaking, in your LLB degree, for me, I had to write a thesis. So because the thesis is directly relevant to your LLM if you do a thesis track. So I asked that professor to be my reference to comment on my thesis writing, on my research skills, analytical skills. The next one I did was I tried to find a professor that I either knew very well or was teaching an area that I wanted to get into. So if I wanted to get into corporate law, I tried to find the business law professor and build a relationship with them and then have them write me a reference letter to show interest in this kind of area. So I think as soon as you can, narrow down your speakers, narrow down three, assuming that one won't reply, just in case. And highly recommend finding the professor that supervised your thesis in your LLB program.
Thank you very much. And maybe Mr. Karachai in regards to the US for reference.
Yes, so broadly speaking, there are two types of references they will be asking you to provide them with. So the first one is academic reference. That is to say, maybe your past professor, someone who has taught you before. And then the second type of reference is professional reference. That is to say, if you have work experience, they would want your employer to testify on your behalf. So in terms of academic reference, and this is something that I wish I had done much better, is, as Mr. Daniel Lode alluded to, it's a good idea to build a relationship, a good rapport with your professor before you ask that professor to write you a hopefully good reference. In my personal experience, I asked a professor for my first year law school, whom I didn't know very well. And I remember feeling very nervous because I asked her to write me a personal statement, and she finished not a personal statement, the reference, and she finished writing it in 30 minutes. And I'm like, oh no, that seems a bit too quickly. Anyway, it turned out well, so I'm okay now. But at that time, I was, oh man, I wish I had done a much better job, like talking to the professor and building a good relationship with the professor. In terms of professional reference, if you have work experience and when you do work, you really need to think about which of your supervisors, for example, if you have many supervisors, you want to be writing your reference for you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And now we have Mr. Alex and Ms. Nishapa who completed scholarship. And Mr. Alexander actually went through quite a different process than the rest of the speakers. So maybe he can tell us the application process for Fulbright, even though it varies between countries, from what I've heard. There are still the same elements in regards to certain application process that has to be there, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I think for Fulbright, you have to pass through at least 3 stages, although that you correctly mentioned that there might be differences from country to country. So in my case, so firstly, you have to actually do a general application saying like, filling out your names, your details, and then, you have to actually write about the personal statement and then why you like which sort of like a research topic that you want to go to when you are studying. And so you have to like write about 2 to 3 essays in the application form and then you submit it. And after that, you will be shortlisted into around like from all these applicants, you will be shortlisted to take a English proficiency test, which is like more or less like TOEFL or IELTS that they actually screen through at the embassy. And after that English proficiency test, you will have to go through an interview, which is like a face-to-face interview with the people from the embassy. And also it includes some of the other stakeholders, alumni as well. And only after that third interview stage, you will be in the finalist. So normally there will be 10 finalists, but that I'm just speaking it from my personal experience in Myanmar. As I mentioned before, there might be differences as well. So they're like, finally, there are like 10 finalists. And depending on each year budget, the Fulbright committee will send 5 to 8 persons. So in my cohort, we could send 8 persons, but I think the cohort behind us, they could only send around like, I couldn't remember, but they could only send around like 5 or 6 people. It's very much dependent on the budget that the Fulbright committee and the US embassy has. So, but the process is something like that. And you have to actually compete with all the people in Myanmar applying for Fulbright scholarships. So you're actually competing with people from all over the country with different major and backgrounds as well. So for me, in my cohort, I'm the only person with the law. And for example, like law is not probably in other countries they will actually choose more people with legal background, but for us it's very rare. There was only one person before me in Fulbright who actually went for LLM with law in Myanmar. I think it's because the school is quite expensive compared to other graduate schools. but also at the same time, you have to like really convince to the Fulbright committee at the interview that law school in the US especially is only 1 year. So you have to actually make that preparation since the interview time. So yeah, that's like the general application process that you have to go through, and it literally took 1 year. So so like from the start of the application process until you got accepted to the program, it's going to take you about 1 year. So it's actually a very long process. And even after you got selected as a finalist, what happens is that they will actually let you choose 4 universities that you want to go to. And those universities that you actually, how do you say, those universities that you actually chose, it's not guaranteed that you will get into them. So what happens is that the Fulbright scholarship kind of like checks those university and only kind of like honor some of the universities that you want to go. Sometimes they will not honor. It's based on funding again, and it's based on your luck as well. So it's, like my advice to people who are applying for Fulbright is, if you have a specific university that you have in mind that you want to attend to, for example, I want to go to Harvard in the US, then don't apply for Fulbright, because you cannot, you're not gonna be guaranteed, and you're gonna get, like, you're gonna make yourself disappointed as well. If you have the opportunity to get that school, get into that school, but you could not attend because of some limitations that Fulbright will have. So in my case, I actually applied to, I actually chose 4 universities. They actually honored 2 of my 4 universities, which is Harvard and Georgetown. And they actually gave me 2 more universities, which is which is University of Miami, and the final one is Chicago University. And what Fulbright did is they actually apply to those universities on behalf of you. So you don't have to actually do anything. You just have to wait and pray, probably, that you get accepted. And in my case, I got actually accepted to all 4, including Harvard. So I was like really hyped about going to Harvard, because I actually got selected as well. And what happened is that Harvard only offered me around 15,000 USD as a financial aid, whereas Georgetown offered me about 60K. And Fulbright decided to send me to Georgetown instead of Harvard, no matter how much you want to go to Harvard. So that's basically my story, like, so again, if you have a specific university in your mind, don't apply for Fulbright. It's not gonna worth it.
Wow, I've never
And you
heard of that,
can't even fund share as well. I tried every possible way. I was trying to convince them, okay, I'm gonna fund myself to get into Harvard. Can you please let me do that? They said no, you can't do that.
Wow, that is the first
So
time I know like the limitations about scholarship. So that's really insightful to anyone considering, of course.
yeah, so yeah, that's I think that's basically my story. So I think Peanut will have more from Shivening. So
Yeah,
yeah.
so thank you so much. And oh my God, that's the first time I hear like the whole process of Fulbright scholarship. So from Pinette, she studies LLM in the UK. So maybe she can tell us briefly about the UK application as well, and then the Chevening scholarship, which a lot of my friends actually was like, oh my God, I'm gonna like listen because they're really interested in applying.
Yeah, but I'm not sure my experience will be useful. If it's not, I'm sorry if it's not, but I hope so. So basically it's quite different from the Fulbright. So basically with the Chevening, you have to be the person who apply for the university yourself. So like you can choose to apply like 10 university, but they will ask you to choose just only 3. And so I think let me introduce for the application process, then like we can see the big pictures and how we go there. So it will take around 1 year, like Fulbright. So it's gonna start around August in the year advance before you go. So the application process will open around 2 months. So like you have to put the applications, have 4 topics that you have to answer. So one is about leadership, and second is networking. Third is the study plan, and the last one is your career plan. And then they will you're gonna submit to the central to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs basically, but now they are Ministry of the Commonwealth and Development, something, they changed the name. So you submit to the central government at the UK, and then the chevening department, they will choose the application from that, and then they will do the long list in for each country. And then when you have a long list, then they will ask you to provide the recommendations and the recommendation letter. So basically, I would recommend you to submit two recommendations that they are required. One, the academic recommendations, and the second is the professionals, because in the aspect of the chevening scholarship, they would like to see how you work and how you can contribute to your country, and how specialized that you are choose to go to study is more important for the country as a whole. So, and they would like the person who give the recommendation letters know you quite well. So because they will ask the questions around like, how is your leadership skill, how is your networking skill, which is normally if you submit the same recommendation letter to the university, it might not that relevant, because normally the university is themselves just want to see how you can contribute to the class, how is your academics perspective, like provide academics perspective on that. So it's going to be different recommendation letter. So I would recommend to get one professor that you know really well, and they agree to give those recommendation letter to you, and they have been seeing some activity that you are doing in the school. Basically, I'm likely to do that. So like I have one professor that I consider myself I'm close with him, but he might not feeling that I'm close with him. So like I'm studying with him like for 2 courses, and then both of the courses we get in a small group. So he likely able to give in the academic perspective, and also for like working as a team perspective as well. So that's the reason. And also brief the professor a bit on like, oh, this is the recommendation for the scholarship, and they would like have this kind of perspective, and like could you writing it from that. And because it's like in Thailand, most of the professor will like ask you to write a recommendation by yourself and then submit for them for review, and then they can like add it or cut it out, and that is what I done in that way. And so for the chevening, after you submit a recommendation letter, which is really have like so like short time, so like I would recommend you, since like the start that you submit the applications, you tell the person who give recommendation letter in advance. So when you are being longlisted, then you can just tell them to submit that to their email. So then I just prepare it in advance, because they give a lot of short time. And also I got some friends that he is longlisted, but because he not actual submit the recommendation letter like quick as enough that they want, and then he's not be shortlisted, even though he longlist. Yeah. So after we shortlist, and then we will book for the interview at the embassy. So in the embassy, I think it's similar to the Fulbright. So we have the alumni, the some sectors, people working in the embassy themselves, and also for me, I got the regional ambassadors who are being overlooked for the mandate for the embassy come to join for the interview. So I got and also the coordinator for the chevenings program. So basically, is what they are looking for the chevening scholar is like the thing that you want to pursue. Basically, the study plan and the career plan is matched together, and so that is come to the important point for to choose where you go to study. So I think Mr. Daniel and also have been tell us a lot on like it will be really useful for like which university you want to go to study and what is that specialist. So and I really agree that like sometimes even though the university that is not get a rank like good rank in like overall picture looking, but they might have some special like specialist subject that is like if you want to go to study this, you have to go to study this. For example, in my case, so what my option is like I did get offer from LSE, and also so I choose LSE, UCL, and also the University of Essex. But the basically why the reason I go to University of Essex, because I guess this one is make my application is more make sense, because first I want to pursue my career in human rights, and the ethics is being acknowledged and quite really famous in the human rights career. So like when people who interview you, if you just largely you just like get all the good school, but they not have anything specialized in human rights, then it's like your application gonna look so weird. Like then you say you're gonna go be human rights specialist, but then you not choose any really great human rights school that is famous in their own country. And that is the reason, specific reason, that's why I choose ethics, and I choose to go to ethics as well. So on that perspective, for the then we go to the interview, and then they will really ask you for, so in the application you have to say already that why you have to explain already why you want to go to these 3 universities, and then they will ask you again in the interview, and then what they will see as well is like, so if like you have some academic constraint that some university, they can really know that they might not accept you. For basically, I got the second honor, but then it's really hard for me to go to Oxford, because Oxford really see the academic qualifications. They want someone that in like the rank 1 of your school. So like if you put those university, then they will quite a bit questions on like how you like your choice on go to the like getting to the university. And so that is the reason I don't put any Oxford on my applications, because I think it will be a bit sound weird. And so and also plus with my human rights. But if like you go to another area of law, I think it's also good options. And if you don't have any academic constraints like me, I think you just put for it, and I think that will show your ambitions a lot. And then you just need to pursue the interviewer that like you can make it by the time. So normally we got interview around March and April, and we will know the result around June, like a confirmation that like you will get a scholarship around June or July. They will give you first in June, and then you have to confirm the university that you want to go in July, before like mid-July. So then it means that the process that you are landing in the start in August, like last year, is come to the July this year, is the time that you need to do the application to the university at the same time. Because when they notice to you that like, oh, you got the shifting scholarship in June, they will give you around 20 days to 1 month. 1 month is the maximum, I guess, that you have to get back with them with the unconditional offers. Mean like they get the acceptance letter from the university. Yeah, so you wouldn't have much time to work out, just only 1 month. So basically most of the people, after they make an application for the scholarship, then they will do the application for the university right away. And even it will be your advantage point when you go to the interview and you already have the acceptance letter. So like you don't need to persuade them much that like, oh, you need to convince them much that like you can do this. Yeah, because you already get the acceptance letter. So then so for the process that we do need to apply to university by ourselves. So in the UK, especially I think most of the country do. So most of the UK university, they have the agents, and the agencies that have like the authorized agency that connect with the university. Like, and I think in each country will be different. So basically in Thailand, we have a few UK agency for apply for LLM, but I think but I would recommend you to check with like, is there are the one who really like the only one agency to apply for LLM. It's like, so they have a two like what I'm learned is like they have a two kind of the agency, like the one that they actually did authorized by the university. So they are being really close and in contact with the university. They are being able to give the people, like the admin people in the university, come to interview you like right away in Thailand. And but another type is like they just apply to the application process on behalf of you. So, but for myself, when I did to decide just only to university because I'm lazy. Basically, I think it's a hard work because when you choose university, it's like you look into the course, you look into when they are open the applications, you look into how it's like they are, like what is it your application considering process. So and I think and because the chevening give likely I need to choose only 3, right? So what I'm doing is like I'm look into all the university course and look into that specialize, and um and then you list the course that you want to study, and then you list the time that like take similarly to the Excel that Mr. Daniel do, but I don't do the Excel. I'm just like handwriting, and on that perspective, then we can choose the course and which university, and then we know the time that we have to apply. And then I go to see they have any agency to submit in the country to the university, because if you use the agent, if they have the agent, you might not need to pay a fee. It's like it's like a clear cut for you and easy. Like you just contact with just one type person, and then they help you on doing that. So in case for the Essex, we do the Essex have the like authorized agency here. But for the LSE, they don't have any agency here. Most agency that they are claiming that they can apply for you is just they do application process for you, and that is something that I think I just do by myself and I pay for the fee. So for what I so what I'm seeing is really, really, very different. Is like when if you apply to the agent, and then the agent is just when you have any problem, agent is just like come back with like the answer within like 1 or 2 days. But like if the LSE, I'm like send email like just for one point that of the questions, I'm waiting for like 15 days. So this is a bigger difference. So like, but those application process you have to shoot to plan yourself to do application that at the start. And also my personal statement I also customize personal statement to submit to each university, because in each university we will have the different specialized in at least in the human like different area. And also that and but I submit the same recommendation letter from my professor to academic. I submit to academic recommendation letter for both, and that is how get to. And then you have to provide English proficiency. Mostly is IELTS, and but if like you don't in my case we don't. I need to get the unconditional offer. So basically I can learn have to get in the process for like 3 sessions. It's like normally most of the school, if you don't get the IELTS score that they required, then they can offer you the conditional offer, and then you can go to study English for like 2 months or 3 months. It depends on your IELTS score, and then you can go to pursue for the master. But in my case, for the chevening, they're not allowed to do the any pre-sessional English course, and then you have to get the unconditional offer. So basically, so I choose to test IELTS just only the IELTS one. But if you the one who fund yourself, and then you already get the conditional offer, you can just work on the IELTS UKVI, and then you can submit the type of UKVI for the pre-sessional course for that. And that is like the overall. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So as we see, there are different application processes for each country. So, and so the next question to all speakers would be, if there are anything that you think maybe what the universities, especially in your respective country of LLM or your scholarship, is looking for in students, and how should students, spend their LLB years? Is there any specific things for that, or what are your personal like recommendation to LLB students? Maybe first I'll ask Mr. Daniel.
Great question. Even when I was doing my LLB, I was thinking the same thing, and years later, I don't know if I have a good answer. I think, and I'll touch upon this when I do my workshop, but choosing a specialization, I think a lot of you will have some trouble trying to figure that out, because in law school, you do the main kind of whatever administration course, criminal law course, but it's not really exposure to that practice of law. It's all theoretical. So it's hard for you to understand whether you want to continue on at a graduate level to spend more time and money studying this if you don't even know you like it. So I think during your LLB, take every opportunity for you to, do internships at the UNHCR, do shadow some other lawyers that are in a practice area that you think you're interested in pursuing. The best you can do is actually to find out what you don't like. It's hard to find your passions and say, oh, I really love construction law. I haven't met anyone that knows what they want to practice, but they know I don't like doing real estate law, right? Then I can cross that out and not pursue that at a graduate level. So wide exposure in your LB program to all sorts of experiences, all sorts of practice areas. That way you can narrow it down to what you want to pursue at a graduate level.
Thank you very much, Mr. Daniel. So, Mr. Akash, your opinion?
Yeah, I think I want to echo Mr. Daniel's point. I don't think I have a good answer as to what they're looking for specifically. What I've been told from admissions officers and alumni is that they are looking for a clear narrative in your personal statement. That is to say, and I know this is a bit cliche to say, they really want to know who you are and what your character is like, what your personality is like after reading your personal statement. And I think what that means in terms of preparation is that the courses you choose to take in undergraduate years, for example, the society you want to be a part of, the type of projects you want to engage in, the type of internship you want to do. I think those decisions will eventually influence what sort of narrative you will be able to construct in your personal statement. So for example, in my case, after realizing that I want to be in the human rights law field or in the public law field, and I decided a bit quite late because I already decided this in my last year at university undergraduate law degree. So I didn't sign off. I wasn't part of any human rights law society. I didn't do any human rights law project. I didn't even take a human rights law paper. But all the human rights related projects and work experience came after graduation. And it is those decisions after graduation that I made that helped me construct a clearer narrative that I could use in my personal statement. And I always ask myself, and I tell my students to ask themselves as well when they write a personal statement, that if there's one thing to take away from your personal statement, what would that one thing be? And if you don't have that one thing, you need to rethink about what it is you want admissions officers reading your personal statement to take away from your personal statement. And that's why a clear, authentic narrative is very important.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Those are two very...
yeah, before I forget, another thing for those considering US applications, I was told from the Dean of Columbia Law School, and I don't know whether I can speak for other law schools, but for those law schools that that open for early application, apparently the chance of you getting accepted through early application is significantly higher than just applying for the convention, the ordinary time frame. So that's something to think about.
Thank you very much. That's a great tip for all considering the US. So now, Mr. Alex, maybe you can tell us how we should spend our LLM years and stuff.
Sure. I think I would like to second to what P Name just mentioned earlier. I think especially because of the U.S. law school context, they love personal, authentic narrative from the students. So that's something that they really look out for. I think for Chevening scholarship or for UK, I think it's going to be slightly different. They tend to look towards more of academic. Probably PNAT can actually explain further about that when she has to speak. But I think for the US specific, yeah, I mean, they really look out for personal narrative, like what you have done, how you're passionate about something that you will be studying, for the LLM. And I have to say, ALSA really helps. And I like to actually tell you my personal story. I was very strategic about like applying for a specific scholarship, for example, like Fulbright. And I was very strategic about which area of law that I want to go to. So I actually planned this out since around like my 4th year of law study. So it's even before I graduate. So like I actually competed in the Vismoot. So it's based on international arbitration. So I actually competed in the Vismoot competition. I continue to support Vismoot in Myanmar. So I was a coach to a couple of teams. I actually helped organize the national rounds of Vismoot later on. And also at the same time, I actually, try to bring in a lot of other moot court competitions into Myanmar. That's how I got to know with the U.S. Embassy. So we actually organized Jessup Moot competition with in coordination with the U.S. Embassy. So that was like a collaboration between ALSA Myanmar and the U.S. Embassy, and that's how I got to know with people from the U.S. Embassy, which basically handles the Fulbright process as well. And honestly, like our advisor for that particular Jessup competition is actually one of my reference person. So I actually asked for his recommendation letter so that he actually knows what I was doing as well. So I was actually very strategic about it. So I actually approached the U.S. Embassy. I actually went to a lot of like arbitration related moot court competitions. I intentionally tried to be involved in as many arbitration works as possible in my law firm as well while I was working. Because for example, in Myanmar, arbitration work is not that much. So you can't be like exposed a lot when you were working back home. So you have to actually be very, very creative and very like proactive about opportunities. And that's how I actually got to apply for that scholarship as well. So when I wrote my personal statement, I actually boiled it down all together, all the experience that I've done together. And one of the tips that I would like to also give, which I will provide further on at the workshop as well, is that don't list out the things that you have done. Try to have a story about it. People tend to do that, like, oh, I have done this, I've done internships of this and that. They're not going to be interested in it. They want more of a story, they want more of a narrative. So yeah, that would be my tip for you guys. And yeah, I think everything helps, moot courts, publications, involvement in student organization, everything helps. You just have to find your own narrative.
Thank you. That's actually a very interesting point of like finding narrative and like as well having a specialization so that you can like pursue your passion more and know the specialization you want to go into.
Sorry, I would add one thing to
Sure,
Alex,
sure,
and
sure.
I completely agree. Do not put down everything that you do, because I mean your CV is going to be 5 pages, and it comes off a little bit humble braggy, which you don't want to be. And all the speakers have talked about having a good narrative, personal branding, and that comes from authentic branding. So having a storyline, but if you have a position that's irrelevant to your story, take it out. Even though you did it, right? And maybe it's a prestigious organization, whatever, but it doesn't fall into your storyline. It should not be there. But yeah, just don't fall into the trap of, like I was saying, just dropping everything, dropping every name in there. It's too humble braggy and no one likes that.
Okay, that noted.
I want to add this is like, so like, even though but sometimes like you have to think it carefully. Some experience you feel not irrelevant, but they might have some aspect that you can put like relevant to the story that you are putting in. So like you have to choose wisely. Yeah.
Thank you. And do you have any regards to preparation, LLB as FLB student for UK application, what they look for maybe?
Yeah, so the UK is a bit different from the US. So basically they're likely to see your academic background and area mostly. So that is the reason why most of the even though you don't have the work experience, you still can able to go to the LLM at UK. And that I for myself that's what I feel like. So in the personal statement, they still want to know you and why you want to study at that LLM basically, but they might not see about the work experience, but you can just give the narrative of yourself as well, even though like how you can contribute to the class and which subject you want to study, and I can touch upon on that point in the breakout room. But basically the UK is mostly not required for the working experience. So but for me, for myself, it's really hard to know like with the school, I'm gonna go, even like because right after study LLB and I'm just like lost. So then I need to find a track to see where I can go. But so what my tips for the preparation is, I do strategically apply for the Shivani scholarship, but I'm not my advanced like Alex. You're just too advanced, Alex. You're just too advanced. But I know that like I know that how important to have the professional that I'm close with to hand ask for the recommendation letter. So what I did is like I go to so in our school, right, Nong B, we have some kind of we have some culture that like in one class they have one like focal point that will talk with the professor. So basically I likely to get one to close with the philosophy of law professor, likely to be like I'm going to chit chat with him every like ending of the class, and then like slightly ask like, oh, anything I can help. So I worked like as a research assistant with him for like just 3 or 6 months, but at least he know how I can do. I spend some free time to like go to talk with him in his room and ask him a lot of things. But even though he's not in the human like field, but he worked at like public field and he is still professor, and that's how I'm close with the professor. And so I know that I'm gonna apply for LLM in like maybe 3 or 4 years, I'm not sure, but I think I still need to get the recommendation letter, and that's how I prepare myself in the first step. And the second step, the narrative is really help, as all the speakers say, and that is what is set it for my application for the chevening. Basically is really on that point. So what my challenges is like, I know my supervisor when I'm working, she also got in the shortlist for the interview. I also know that my supervisor and me gonna do on the same practice area and the same thing, and she got more on the working experience. So I'm thinking about then how I'm gonna branding myself different from other people. So that is, I think, is like each person have to finality when we are apply for the scholarship. And even though the thing that you are being showing is not something that is happens, but you can show something that aspect in the future that like what you can do from the thing that you have been done past before. And in my years, my professor, my supervisor don't get the scholarship, but I did. And like the people in the field, like the for the refugee field that we did quite close, I'm the only one who get from the refugees in the working group that I'm the youngest. So I think the thing that I've been talking with the most alumni, Shivaning and other Shivaner, I found that it's like because it's how we put the narrative for ourselves, and it's quite unique. And like they want to see is that you're different from any other applicants. So if you have less work experience, doesn't mean that you're not going to go to, but it's like how you can promise to the government that is like, oh, you actually do able to do this, and is you will work it out is as differently than other people. And I think that is like something that is really important. So but I think it's really hard for the people to, when you think yourself, that how you're gonna find the thing like your own branding basically. So I would recommend to seek opportunity to do many type of internship and work if you can. And also, as Mr. Daniel said, like causing out the thing that you don't like. So for me, I can say like actually I like corporate job, like when I do intern. So I like the financial banking and stuff. But what I don't like is like I hate working hour. So that's why I don't go. Yeah, I just like the human rights field more because I have more work life balance. The reason is easy like that. So so yeah. So just cause and for myself, like I don't go to constitution lawyer like name one because I hate constitution. I hate public law in the general way. I more like international law, international business, but I don't like there's something in domestic because I hate it. And just call that out. So then you can narrow like to one or two, like it's a few way for you to try and go. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. That's actually a very insightful point for me. We'll definitely be crossing out what I don't like instead of choosing what I like. That's really a strategic insight. And so actually one of my friend would like to ask questions as she messaged me here. So maybe she can turn on her microphone. If that's all right, since the session we're going to end at 25, it might overlap a bit. All good, thank you. Right, Party can go ahead.
Thank you, B. First of all, thank you for all of your insights. My name is Party and I'm from Thailand. You talked about pursuing LLM for the ones who consider working in that country, but would the ones studying in LLM program have like an ample amount of knowledge to work in foreign countries comparing to the ones studying in LLB or JD for 4 years? Like, how is the working experience for LLM graduates working abroad? Thank you.
I guess I can start with this one, and feel free, guys, to jump in. I think with the LLM trying to pivot into a new country, eventually working there, I wouldn't say it's a sure thing. There's no guarantee they can work there, and actually, for the most part, you probably won't be able to work there. It's just an opportunity for you to, number one, be in the country and network with people, to see if there's any kind of interest in taking you on afterwards. But number two, a lot of the countries here, I know in Canada, after you get into your LLM or whatever graduate degree, it starts counting towards your PR. That could be time spent towards getting your PR. So if your long-term goal is to, say, transition to Canada, doing an LLM, getting that anchor in right away, and then kind of making your way, finding a job and whatnot, makes it easier. And you know, like with certain states in the US, after you do your LLM in that particular state, you do qualify to kind of bypass their JD requirement, and you can write their state bar. So that's helpful if you want to, once again, re-domicile yourself in a new country. But by no means, I would not say it's a guarantee that you can get into a country that way. It's just an anchor, a way for you to anchor.
Yeah, I would like to echo Mr. Daniel's point. So obviously, I haven't started my LLM yet, so I won't be speaking for too long. But so my plan right now, so I will be taking the, assuming I am eligible, assuming my documents have been properly sent to New York Bar, given COVID and everything. So I will be doing my New York Bar exam this July, right before my LLM starts, so that after my LLM finishes, I will be able to say that I qualify for to practice. I'm qualified to practice in New York. But my experience talking to a lot of alumni who went to the US to do an LLM is that the chance of landing a job after an LLM is not very high. It's very, very competitive. And I'm in this WhatsApp group chat of all the people who will be doing LLM in the US, and all of them want the same thing. They want to qualify in certain states and then apply for jobs. So I would say the market is very competitive.
Actually, sorry, I just want to jump in there and add a quick point. Yes, it is hard to stay pivot into North America, Canada, UK, whatnot, after the LLM. But if your intention is to re-pivot yourself back into Asia, so I know a lot of mainland China lawyers that do their LLM in the States, and then after that, they re-pivot themselves into Singapore or into Hong Kong. And that's more doable, and the chances are higher, because cities like Singapore and Hong Kong do like to see American LLMs and American state bars. And you having that Western experience and then coming back to Asia is actually very valuable. So I think if you were to do it like a rebound pivot back into Asia, into one of these cities, definitely doable. But I think, like everyone's saying, like if you were to go into North America, unless you have some sort of PR citizenship or have a role lined up, it's going to be rather difficult. Not impossible, but difficult.
Thank you. Does any speaker will also want to add there?
So for me, it's because the conditions of the scholarship is that you have to promise that you're going to come back to your own country and working at least 2 years. So I'm not looking like explore much on like working right away, but they are flexible to allow you to do fellowships like 1 year or even the internships as well. So I would like recommend people to do that. And I think in the UK, you might, when you take LLM, I got many of my friends who take the bar as a solicitor. But I think on the same time, I think you can, most of the international law firm like a Baker and McKinsey in UK, I think they have some kind of the clerkship program and also associate training program. I think you might looking into and apply for that. But to the opportunity that I have been seen in my school is like they will have like some kind of job fair in during the LLM time as well. Then they have the recruiter from most of the law firm in the UK come to talk with you, and then you can explore from that. But because myself done looking into the law firm basically because I have to come back to Thailand, and also I'm more likely to want to get into the international organizations. So I didn't attend, so I don't know how it's going. But what I'm been learning, they have those kind of the program that you might able to look into. But obviously you have to compete with the local people. But the good thing for the UK, the UK's master degree at this moment is like if you have the visa for the student, for 1 year, right? Then they're gonna grant you the like spontaneously and instantly that like you can have another 2-year extension for the visa to find a job. So basically you don't worry about the visa, and then it can be more advantage for you to talk with the law firm that you are finding the internship, because most of the reason that people will refuse the foreign application is because they tend to not working out the visa for you. But since like if you come to the UK right now, they are +2, like is it going to be visa +2 year for you for finding the job. So then I think that would be easier. But I can say it's really competitive. It's really hard, and just wish you all the luck if you need to. But I think the easier way is find internship, fellowship, either any. Yeah.
Thank you. And that's
Yeah.
Mr.
Sure. I just want to also give my 2 cents, which I would say I have to agree with all the speakers before me. It's not to discourage you guys, like not in any form, but it's actually very competitive, especially in the US. So because they have like JD students, right? And we have like LLM students as well. So for the JD students, in terms of like career, in terms of job opportunities, they already have this like set pathways. So for example, for a lot of JD students, they have in the US, they have diversity program, they have like 1L summer internship programs, which is like designed for JD students in the US. For the LLMs, we have to like depend so much on networking. And there are only a handful of law firms who will have specific internship or externship, what they call externship programs for LLM or international students. Everything actually is made for the JD students more. So we actually have to like really rely on our networking skills. You have to like speak to a lot of like lawyers. We have to speak to a lot of practitioners, and possibly ask for externships or internships opportunities. And in this COVID time as well, it's really difficult. You have to like everything is virtual these days. So that's another challenges that a lot of foreign trained LLMs in the US are facing these days. Like the limited opportunity to be able to effectively network with practitioners, so that you can actually have some sort of like a internships or job opportunities as well. So yeah, I mean, and also for the US law schools, I think bar exam is also very important. So I think not many students, for example, like myself, we our university credit from the undergrad cannot be accredited to the New York bar exam. So what happened is that in the LLM program, if you want to sit for the New York bar, you have to actually attend certain classes that would qualify you to be able to sit for the bar exam. For me, I did not do that because I'm already qualified in my country. I'm kind of like now in a dilemma right now. I kind of like regretting it, but get back again. But also at the same time, that actually, actually if you don't plan to sit for the bar exam, you have more options and more freedom to choose your class that you're really interested in. If not, you're gonna have to end up studying administrative law, constitutional law, torts, some of the stuff that you might not really be interested in as well during your very limited 1-year LLM period. So it's definitely entirely up to you. If you want to, just study here, experience what is going on, do some internships, go back to your country, continue to work, that's totally fine. But if you actually want to settle in the US or elsewhere where you're going to go to do your LLM, I think it's going to be difficult, but it's not impossible as well. So yeah, just want to say that.
Yeah.
Thank you. So,
yeah,
yeah,
just some there's no small thing like before I forget. So basically, it's, I think for the even especially for the UK, as like I told you, like they have the agent, right, the agency. So and I think mostly right now, most of the agencies they are doing the online visual like Zoom call like this that you can have a chance to chat with the administrative officer from each university that you are interested in, and I think you can might have a chance to talk with them as well an aspect of the career opportunities. I think for some university, they are grant some kind of, they might have some pipeline project that is like if you come to LLM, they are in contract with some law firm or some organization that they are put the internship for you. I think that is going to be good opportunities for you to explore. And I think it's easier at this moment because they have visual like the seminar online. Yeah, quite a lot.
Yeah, thank you. So actually there is one person who's raised her hand. So I think if that's all right, we'll ask one more questions and have 10 minutes break. We can push the closing ceremony a bit since closing ceremony can actually be like less than 10 minutes. So we'll answer this question and have a 10 minutes break before the workshop. So Akila, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Please go ahead with your question.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you for the insights. And I want to ask Lunette, as far as I know that Thailand and UK have different legal system. And my question is that a big deal or not? I mean, does that affect you how you learn law or not at all? Thank you in advance.
So yeah, so thank you. I think I can explain you a bit like our Thailand domestic law system. We are copy from many countries. we do a lot. We do a type of like I think we are dual system with like a common law and the civil law at this moment. So we do have the code, but then we are also look into the court decision to make like how is the principle is go on. So it's some kind of the common law system, right? But we do have a code. This is a funny story. And so basically what I'm doing is I try to find how is differentiates between UK and Thailand. I think Name can add on this as well, as he also come to practice in Thai and have a lot of questions on this. And so, but what I feel like you don't need to be afraid is like when you go actually to study that, you might start to compare with the principal law in your domestically. So it's not have much on problem. And especially for the LLM itself, it's more learn on the theory and like theoretical framework. So basically you are learning on the principle, not actual like all the case law. Okay, you might need to understand a bit on how the EU system, but now they're not in EU anymore, so I think don't worry. But how the case law using to make argument in the UK master, like when you are doing the assignment or exam, how the professor gives so much importance to the case law. You have to just understand the UK system. But I think in terms of the knowledge, I think we are learn on the same principle and the same theory, but it's just how they are come to implement in your country is might make differently. So basically, we like a taught law in Thailand, we exactly copy from the UK. Like the causation principle is from the common law, but we are doing it here. So that is like a funny story. So I think don't worry much on that. And so especially if like you're gonna pursue some international like the law, like they are like international level, like mostly like a business law and a finance, I think they are likely to go on the same directions and the same principle. So I don't think that they have much problem on this.
Yeah, I just want to add a few things. You know, just don't worry about it. I mean, it's even fun. You know, consider that this as a fun thing. You know, you're exploring a lot of new things in your LLM. You know, so for example, like one of the things that freaked me out in my Georgetown like LLM is that professors, I think, and I think it applies to a lot of US law schools as well. They have this thing called cold calling. Basically, you know, you know, what cold calling is something like the professor will actually ask any random student in his class. He will ask a question, and then based on that question, he will, you know, continue the conversation. Like he will actually continue the discussion like based on the question and answer or interviewing style amongst the students. And like you get cold call a lot. Sometimes some professors can be really nice. They will be like, on this particular day, these persons will be cold called. So you can actually prepare it in advance. But sometimes some professors are not that like not that nice in a way. So they won't let you know whom you will be, whom he will be cold calling to. So you will be just freaking out the entire time while you're actually in the class as well. So but I just want to let you know, even though the systems can be very different, consider this as an opportunity to learn more and explore more, and then you'll be fine. It's not the it's not
It's
going to be
not a
like
big
you're going to
thing.
be crying
Yeah.
all the day because you don't
Yeah.
understand how to read
And
case law. They will actually
yeah.
teach you how to
Yeah, they
study
will.
learn study case law as well. So
Yeah,
don't worry
they
about it.
will like force you to like use the case law. So and you will see how they put the argument out there in the classroom as well. So you don't worry much on that. And also normally we will have the reading list in advance, so you actually understand what they are talking about in the class. So and if like for me, it's easy for me to like come back to compare what I have been known or like I have been acknowledged to in LLB principle for basically. So then I can like make more easy understand. And normally this is because when we do the LLB in Thailand, we know like which kind of like this law is come from, because that's what professor always say, like, oh, this is developed from Japan, basically, like tax law. We come with Japan plus Germany plus Korean for anti-tax, something like that. So we know that this principle is not come in the common law. Yeah. So I think that is would be help for any Thai law student.
Thank you very much. That's actually, I was laughing because it's literally like civil and common law mix. Anyway, yeah, that's a really reassuring to hear about that from all of you. So thank you very much. So actually, now that the time is up, we will have a 10 minutes break and we will start our breakout session at 50. But maybe before that, we can take a